Well, I'm sorry guys, but this is as good as it's gonna get today. I've never done this before, and if you could see my wonky setup, I have a napkin holder, which is this black thing right here, with a mug, and then my phone, and then tape, and then a cup, and then a pair of scissors holding it all back. So we shall see how far we get. Let's hope my husband doesn't call. Somebody asked me, yes, it is very small. And I bought these cheap readers at the Dollar Tree. I wear glasses to see far away, but as I've gotten older, my close-up vision has gone bye-bye. I use my tablet, and I have it on airplane mode. Put it right there. I try not to shake anything. We're going to try and do this. We're going to do this, people. Let me put my glasses on. Okay. I'm working on the letter G, and I'm working on my flower villa. I finished the sunflower, by the way. It's really pretty. If you want to see it, I'll show it, but right now. So what I was going to do is I was going to answer some questions in case you're interested and just sit here. It's Tuesday. Yesterday was Monday. Today's Tuesday, October 30th, and then tomorrow's Halloween, and I got to go to work tomorrow. And yay, me. But so this is day 2. So yesterday I got a lot done in the house, and I got a lot of diamond painting done because it was Monday Night Football. So I thought I'd answer some questions and sit here, and I hope you can see what I'm doing. If you can't, I'm sorry. Number 1, what is your favorite smell? That's a hard one because I like a lot of them. I like the smell of bleach because it smells clean. I like that smell. I love the smell of lavender. Bath and Body Works used to carry this thing called Clean Cotton, which I absolutely adored, and it reminded me of Downy. And I've always said if Downy came out with a cologne or lotion or whatever, I would buy it. I love the smell of Downy. My mom used it when I was a kid. I love it. I'm talking about the original Downy. I bought some perfume a year ago or so. It's Jessica McClintock, and it smells like Lily of the Valleys. I wear that quite a bit. I like that too. But like candles and stuff, I like lavender. My husband says it smells like an old lady, but I don't care. We have a Scentsy pot in our living room, and if I buy something for in there that he sits in there, he likes the smell of like apples and cinnamon and that kind of stuff. What's my favorite ice cream? Or what's my favorite flavor? My favorite ice cream, strangely enough, is vanilla. Very boring. When I used to eat a lot more ice cream, it used to be that my lactose intolerant wasn't as bad as it is now. And so I used to like to go to Cold Stone Creamery and get their, it's called birthday cake, and that was my favorite. Oops, I just dropped some stuff. That's okay. Sorry, I'm messing with my tablet. That's the only thing, the only difference between a light board and a tablet. A tablet will dim. I think there's a setting you can mess with and make it not dim as much. where was I? Oh, I like the taste of vanilla. I bought, if I go to the store and I buy creamer for my coffee, I like the Italian sweet cream. I like the French vanilla. I pretty much like vanilla. My favorite cake is an angel food cake because it's kind of vanilla. That's about it. So yeah, I'm going to say my favorite flavor is vanilla. If I buy gum, I like to buy a mint flavor. I don't like vanilla gum. It doesn't sound right, but yeah, I'm pretty dull. I'm pretty easygoing. There isn't a lot of food I don't like. I don't like asparagus. Last night Greg made Salisbury steak and I ate it, but it's not my favorite. It's not a steak. It's more like a hamburger patty with gravy on it. It's not that great. What else? I probably should have wrote down questions. My pen's not sticky enough. Let me get my little, don't tell me I didn't bring it out here. Nope. Forgot my wax. Oh well, just suffer away. What else? Where's all the places I've lived? All right. I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I married a guy who was in the Navy, and he was stationed in Charleston, South Carolina, and that's where our daughter was born. And we lived there for a few years. I think we left when Brianna was maybe 2 or a little under. Then we moved to the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area, and we lived in Norfolk proper, and then we lived in Portsmouth, and then we moved to Navy housing in Virginia Beach. We lived in Navy housing in Portsmouth, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's if you have a choice, no. I'm not really sure. I don't think that housing is there anymore. This was 20 years ago, so. And my son was born in Chesapeake, Virginia, which is the civilian, there was a civilian hospital, and that's where I had him at. And his dad's name is Stephen, and the baby's name, my son's name is Stephen, and the doctor's name was Stephen. So I had Daddy Steve, Dr. Steve, and Baby Steve. And that was interesting. Then my ex decided to get out of the military, and we moved to his hometown of Tucson, Arizona. And we lived there. I lived there quite a few years. I lived there about 10 years. And unfortunately, that's where we got a divorce. That's where I raised my children. That's where my favorite church was. I worked at a country club at the time. It was a mainly happy time in my life. I mean, it was stressful because the kids were little and I was divorced, but I think I was pretty happy. I had bought a house, which I should have never bought a house because I was a server, waitress, whatever you want to call it. And I had a good job at the country club, but I don't know what they were thinking. I guess it was the time of bad mortgages. So, yeah, I bought a house, and I was upside down on my mortgage, and I had a lot of problems with the kids. They wanted to go live with their dad. He had moved to Amarillo, Texas by this time, and I lost my house. I broke up with the guy that I had been dating for a long time. I lost my job at the country club. I was working by that time at a hotel, and They had a protest going on because Arizona at the time, I don't know, they might still be, they had passed a law where you could pull anybody over that you wanted to and demand their papers. And so there was some protesting going on, and a lot of people were boycotting the state of Arizona. And so I was working at the hotel, and if there's no guests, there's no reason for a full staff. So, you know, I lost my house. I pretty much lost both of my jobs. And my sister at the time was living in San Antonio, Texas, and I was exceptionally depressed. I mean, I was really depressed. And my dad at the time was very sick with Alzheimer's. My mother was a full-time caregiver. And so I felt really lonely and vulnerable, and the children wanted to go live with their dad. And so both of them did. My son first, and then my daughter eventually. I'm glossing over, there's more to this story, but, you know, I don't need to tell the world exactly what happened. But suffice to say, the children decided they wanted to go live in Amarillo with their dad. And, you know, I had full custody and he had partial, so it really was not a big deal. And I had so many other things that I had to focus on at the time that I was okay with it. I was sick because I missed them so much, but you know, they didn't need to be with me at the time. They needed to be in a different place. And sometimes with your kids, you have to make those hard decisions where you decide what's best for you, for them, and not for you. And so that's what happened. So I pretty much sold all my possessions, or my ex did, and I took what I could, and I moved to San Antonio, where my sister was living at the time. And her husband were getting a divorce, and we decided that we would pool our money, and she would buy a house, and then she would pay me back. So I would live in the house with her. Well, didn't work out very well. She got a boyfriend I didn't care for. We fought a lot. My dad died at that same time. My daughter had a lot of issues in Amarillo. So I was pretty miserable. And I was working at a gas station, and it was just like, oh, this sucks. You know, everything is horrible. And then my stuff was in storage, and everything got wet, and some of it molded, and it was just like, oh my Lord. So eventually I moved out, and I got my own apartment, and I started dating a man who said he was getting a divorce. And if you're in your 40s, it's hard to find single men. I mean, single men, good men. And I like to be in a relationship. I mean, I don't like to be alone. It doesn't suit me. So, like I said, I was dating this guy, and he said he was getting a divorce. Well, come to find out, he was not getting a divorce. He was just basically fooling around. And so after I figured that out, I was like, oh my gosh. You know, I felt like I would committed the worst sin ever, because I couldn't stand cheaters to begin with, and here I was, you know. But looking back, you know, I wasn't innocent, but I wasn't, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so I got rid of him, and at Christmas time, I worked till midnight, and I'm not Catholic, but the Catholic Church does midnight mass. I need more color green. Does midnight mass on Christmas Eve. And so I just decided to go to church, to mass. And it was a beautiful service, and everybody was dressed up and they all seemed happy. Like the next day they were going to go home and open presents, and I was pretty miserable. And I told God, I said, I'm fighting with my sister. I'm in this new state where I don't know anybody. The guy that I was dating, is a big loser. Here, I need to turn my tablet back on. I'm working this. By that point, I was working 2 jobs. Well, no, not yet. I only had the 1 job. I said, I need help. I'm lost. My dad just died. This was 2010. I'm miserable. My mom's miserable. She would call me and she would cry, and everything just was like bleh. I said, please send me a decent guy. And so I left church, and that was a bad Christmas. I mean, it was not great. Then 2 weeks later is my birthday, and that was pretty crappy. The only good thing that came of it, I was going to get a tattoo, because I was like, okay, I'm going to get a tattoo. And for some reason, it was really, really bad weather, and the roads were icy, so I didn't go. So I didn't get the regrettable tattoo because I know I would have regretted it, so I'm glad I didn't do that. But yeah, I spent that birthday by myself. I went to a Chinese restaurant, contemplated driving in the icy roads, but didn't go, so I didn't get my tattoo. I remember that year I was big into, I'm not going to be on social media all day, so I took a breather from social media, because I was big into Facebook at the time, and I kind of fell off the Facebook bandwagon because my children were very active on Facebook, and they still are. But at the time, in your early teen years and whatever, you put out stuff, and I was like, ugh. As much as I wanted to see what my kids were up to and keep in contact with them in some way, somehow, I was just not into hearing every little single, detail of their life, and they were putting it all out there. In fact, I told both of them, I'm like, you guys, the internet may live forever. So anyway, in April of that year, I was out on my balcony, and I believe I was drinking a beer, because I was drinking beer at the time. And I saw this guy, and he's moving furniture in, and he was very good looking. And then there was another guy, a younger guy, about 19, and I was like, wow, who is this? And he moved in right across from me, and so I didn't say anything to him, but I was like, oh, nice, eye candy next door to look at. And I kept waiting for a woman to show up, like a wife or a girlfriend, and they never did. So a week later or so, I kept my eyes out. I met the younger guy, and his name was Austin, and him and his dad moved in there, and his dad's name was Greg, and he had a job, and he wasn't married, so I was like, oh, possibilities, and he was around my same age, so I was like, oh, more possibilities. And so I started talking to the son, and he seemed like a really nice kid. And so yeah, I just kept talking to Austin, and I was working, by this point I was working at a Cajun restaurant, and I was working second shift nights. And so he would come out, and he didn't have a job at the time, and So what he was supposed to do was clean the house while his dad was at work. And a whole lot of that was not getting done. And so he would make coffee and we would sit outside and drink coffee and talk and do whatever. And so I really liked his dad. I liked Austin, but I really, really liked his dad. So I made it a point of trying to be outside when he would, come home from work. And I would look, he had a Subaru station wagon at the time. And so I would be like, yeah, hey, what's up? And he was polite, but he was just, like, whatever. He was not that... I mean, I don't think he was that impressed with me when he first met me. Now, if you ask him now, he will tell you different, that he thought I was pretty, but at the time, I don't know, maybe he was just tired when he came home from work. And that's possible, because I know his personality, and when he gets off work, he's just like, rawr, I want a beer, rawr, I need to relax. So maybe that was it, but at the time, I'm like, oh, this dude is not interested in me. Then I thought, well, single man, not married, and a son, maybe he's gay. It's possible. And we laugh about this now because he thinks I'm, absolutely crazy. Sorry, I gotta mess with my tablet. 1 second. Jeez, oh Pete, Lisa. So anyway, so we laugh about it now, or I laugh about it. He doesn't find it quite as funny as I do, but so I just thought, okay, he's not interested in me. Maybe he's gay, or maybe, he just doesn't like brunettes. I don't know. It's 1,000,001 reasons. And so he used to come out and we would drink a beer. Like I said, I would drink a beer, and we would talk. And he was very nice. He was very polite, but I felt like I was hanging out with his son more than him, and I'm like, okay, whatever. That's how it's gonna roll, Okay. And then one night, I had gotten home late, and he came up the steps, and I said, hey, how you doing? And he says, oh, good, it's my birthday. And I said, well, happy birthday. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I just got off work. I'm sitting out here drinking a beer. At the time, I was drinking Coors Light. He's like, you got another one? I'm like, sure. So we started talking, and we sat there, and we talked till about 2 in the morning, just about all sorts of stuff, and what's it like to have kids, and he told me part of his story of his life and the places he's lived, and I talked about different things, and it got to be 2, 3 in the morning, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to bed. And so he said, okay, well, good night. And he leaned over and he kissed me, and I was like, okay, what was that? I thought we were just going to be friends. And so, yeah. I guess he did like me. And so things progressed from there. Austin moved out. And Greg was spending a lot of time at my place. And I know why now, because my house was way cleaner than his. No offense, my darling, but you are a slob. So, I said to him, I'm too old for this malarkey. I don't want to live with somebody. If you just want to be boyfriend, girlfriend, and do whatever, you know, that's fine, but you're spending 80% of your time over at my house, which is cool, and I would go over to his apartment too. But you know, I'm not interested in living with somebody anymore. I said, so here's the deal. If, you know, you want to keep hanging out, fine, that's fine. But I want to, you know, I want to get married. And he looked at me and he said, well, I was going to ask you anyway, but I was just trying to figure out a way to get around to it. And then I felt terrible because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible, rotten person. I pushed this man into, you know, asking me to marry him. And so I said yes. And so we decided to get married. And I'm really glad we did. We've had a lot of ups and downs. We've been married 7 years now. I do believe he's the one that I prayed for that Christmas Eve so long ago. I believe God brings people into your life for a reason. I think God answered my prayer. Is he the perfect man? No, he's not perfect. Am I perfect? No. Are we perfect for each other? Yes. And I don't think anybody else wants to put up with us, but is there things I'd like to change about him? Absolutely. He has a pessimistic side that's hard for me sometimes to handle. He is a hard worker. He drinks too many beers for my taste. Actually, I quit drinking, and so to me, I think he drinks too much, but what are you gonna do? But yeah, I think he's the one that I'm meant to be with. But yeah, so that's a little, I guess you could call it stick with me, drill with me, whatever you want to say. It took me longer to get this set up than it did to actually do this video. You want to see my face? Hi! Anyway, 27 minutes. Wow. I don't think I've ever done a 27-minute video. If you have any questions, you know, comments, leave them down below. I'm no expert on anything, but I have an opinion on pretty much everything. Bye guys, bye!